Hey, what's going on, Beat family? Alan and Jennifer here.
Hey, everyone.
Back with another video. Some of you all have been like, when is Mrs. Parr going to be back on the beat? Y'all making me feel bad. You're like, hey, no offense, Brother Parr, but we want to see your wife. We want to get your wife back on the beat. And guys, we got an exciting 3-part series that we're going to be doing. Today is Valentine's Day. And so therefore, happy Valentine's Day for everybody, all the lovers in the house. And actually, today's a special day because 8 years ago today, I had the privilege and honor of meeting this wonderful, beautiful woman at our church at a Valentine's Day party for singles. And we're just going to really talk a little bit about 3 parts of our journey. The first part we're going to delve into is basically from when we met up until we got engaged. And you're not just going to be hearing about our journey. We're really going to be talking about some lessons learned or some tips for those of you who might be currently dating right now. And then the next video, we're going to come back. We're going to kind of look at how do you navigate that season between engagement and your wedding day, because it's pretty important to be able to figure out how to do that. And then finally, for all our married couples or people who are looking to get married, the third video, we're going to come back and look at some myths about marriage and talk about kind of what it's like to be a young married couple.
This is fun, especially when we get to talk about our journey, but also deposit into you. So yes, keeping up with the Parrs.
Yeah,
let's do it.
So awesome, guys. So just a little bit of background before we get into some of these tips. Like I said, we met on Valentine's Day 2014. And so we started getting to know one another. We were at the same church, which is always a good idea. Maybe not the same church, but make sure y'all both are in church. We're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But we started dating and getting to know one another. And I would say about 6 weeks to about 2 months into our dating experience, or our journey rather, my wife hit me with this bombshell and nearly broke my heart. And I'll let her share a little bit about that. And I'm going to come back and talk about like some major important lesson that you can learn from that. But I'll let you share kind of how you broke my heart 2 months into our dating experience.
Heartbreaker. That's interesting because I typically was the one that always got my heart broke. So to be labeled as a heartbreaker feels a little intense. But I would say at that season of my life, I knew what I wanted. And if that was not you, I was okay with that. Prior to meeting Alan, I had been through relationships that ended up in heartbreak, and I wanted to be a lot more intentional about my selection or being pursued by a man. And so the big heartbreak that he's talking about is we had spent just a couple months maybe getting to know each other. But what he didn't know is that prior to meeting him, I literally told God, like audibly in a prayer, maybe it was in the shower, I don't remember, but it was like, God, do not send me anybody in Texas. I am done with Texas. I'm moving away and I'm moving to the East Coast to pursue my career. So you could call it chasing a career, which we'll talk a little bit about that, ladies. But I would like to say I was focused. I was focused not on meeting a man, but I was really focused on just where I felt God was taking me and focused on my career.
Yeah.
But that broke his heart.
Yeah, because in my mind, I literally met the woman of my dreams. I mean, here I am, almost 40 years old. I had dated, several different women before her and finally got to the point where I was like, in my mind, this is it. She's the one. Like, I'm ready to do this. And everything is so convenient. It's perfect. We're both in Dallas, both at the same church. We're like 20 minutes away. Everything is perfect. And here she goes messing stuff up, talking about I want to move to DC to pursue some career in journalism, right? And so I'm just upset about that because I will never forget the day on Facebook. I remember she changed her status, moved to DC, and all of her friends were chiming in. Oh, go girl, get yours, go after your career. We're so proud of you. Way to step out on faith. And I'm like, man, so here's really the first major lesson and tip that I really want to encourage you guys to think about, because we were faced with a decision at this point. Are we going to just call it quits and be like, you know what, this isn't working because I don't like long distance And I've had long distance relationships in the past and it didn't work out. I know you had 1 or 2 long distance relationships in the past and it wasn't really ideal for you. And so we had a decision to make. Are we just going to call it quits and go our own ways and hope that God may bring us back together again? Or are we going to put in the work? So my first lesson for y'all is be careful about making a permanent decision based on a temporary reality or temporary situation, right? If I would have said, you know what? Man, this is going to be too hard to do this long distance dating thing. Forget it. I would have missed out on the biggest blessing of my life, to be married to my wife. But if you realize that, okay, this is just a short season that we'll probably look back on and be thinking, oh, that was so short compared to a lifetime of love. Make sure that you're not basing your decisions on some sort of temporary situation, specifically for those who might be in the long distance situation.
Absolutely. And that speaks to intentionality, right? The reason that we have long dating periods is because intentions are not clear. Intentions are not made early enough. Ladies, there's a statistic out there, and I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's men typically know if you are marriage material or if you are someone that they could see themselves being married to by 6 months. So if you're in a relationship where you've been together for 5 years, 4 years, 10 years, ladies, the longer you stay in that is not going to convince him because he probably already knows or has an idea if you are someone that he wants to marry. And so let's cut all that long dating. We had to be very intentional that if we were going to see if this was going to work, then let's set some boundaries. Let's be intentional and let's make a decision today. I think that's called like DTR, determine the relationship, something like that. Determine the relationship. We don't need long datings to decide if someone is for you, which now leads us to how we were intentional in our dating.
Yeah. So guys, this is going to be really the second tip. And I'm speaking specifically to the brothers and to the men. And that is to make sure that you are intentional and clear about your pursuit with this woman, right? Be clear about your intentions. This whole idea of we're going to hang out for a while, we're going to see how it goes, or hey, I'm not really ready to commit to you. I'm not sure where this is going. I want you to see other people. I want to see other people. We're just kind of friends with benefits or whatever it is. Guys, Christian guys, we got to stop all that, right? You probably have dated enough people at this point to know what you are looking for. So as a Christian man, it is our responsibility to protect and guard a woman's heart because most Christian women are looking for marriage and not just to be hanging out and having a good time. So we need to make sure as men that we're coming to the table and we are clear. I made my intentions known within the first 3 or 4 dates. I didn't say I want to marry you, but I said the reason why we are sitting here on this bench in Plano, right, at Shops of Legacy is because I am trying to get to know you for the purpose of seeing if you are my wife. And I'm in ministry and I'm not only looking for a wife, I'm also looking for a ministry partner.
Yes.
I was very clear about that. So talk a little bit about how that made you feel, me being intentional about things early on.
Goodness. Okay. So we're sitting on a date and a lot of our dates were public. They were at parks. They were at restaurants. We didn't do the Netflix and chill thing. And I remember you saying, hey, I just want to let you know, I am interested in looking for a wife. And I remember like looking back, like, you talking to me? Like, you know, I just thought we were getting to know each other. I just thought we're dating. But I didn't realize how I was so comfortable in this long periods of getting to know each other without someone making their intentions clear. And for a second, I had to think, I prayed for this. I prayed for a godly husband. I prayed for someone that had clear intentions. And he's literally right in front of me. And I'm scared. I'm nervous. So I appreciated you making your intentions clear, or at least making me understand what you were looking for, because that immediately showed me what your character was like. Which leads me to the next point is that when you are dating, Ladies, I know there's so many things you can be focused on and even distracted by, whether it's their swag, you want a swaggy boy or a man, whether it's how much money they make, whether it's they can dance or they can't dance.
I can't dance that well.
But we all have our list. We all have our list of things that we think either we deserve or worthy of or would make the best man. And for me, it used to be chemistry. I needed to be able to vibe with you, jive with you. For marriage, chemistry is not important. I was looking for character over chemistry. So that is the third point that I would say to focus on is focus and really review someone's character. Not how much you vibe, because it's the honeymoon stage. You're going to vibe. You're going to connect. But are they a man or a woman of their word? Do they deliver on what they say they're going to do? Are they honest? Do they guard your heart? Like Alan talked about, all those things really define a godly character in someone. And so that was one thing that allowed you to stand out, was your character, and you're making your intentions clear, took you all the way to the top.
Okay, cool. Now, let me give you an example, a practical example of how this kind of played out. So as you know, at this point in our relationship, we are long distance dating. We were like, you know what? There's something here. I feel something special. I sense something different. So we're going to give this a shot. So we were very intentional about this. Every single month I went to DC, and every single month she came to Dallas. Now let's talk about the sleeping arrangements. All right. Because this is an example. You can't say you're a man of God. You can't say all these things. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to stay with you. Right. I'm going to stay over the night with you. Or when I come to, hey, it's a whole lot of money. Guys, look, I was a high school math teacher, wasn't making a lot of money. So I could have easily saved $500 every month going to DC by just saying, I'll stay with you. But no, I knew that if we made plans to sin, like, oh, I'm planning to spend the night with you, like we ain't even trying to do it right. Right. I knew we would have fallen.
Absolutely.
So what we had to do is I had to say, you know what, when I come to DC, no matter how much it costs, I'm going to get a hotel so that at the end of our date, you go back to your apartment, I go back to my hotel, and we have some boundaries set up in our relationship. When she came to Dallas, she was staying with her parents because that's where she grew up, in their parents' house, and I stayed in my house. Boundaries. And another thing, because she was staying with her parents and I wanted to earn the respect of her father, I knew I couldn't bring her back at 3 or 4 or 5, 6 in the morning.
No, my dad was not having that.
Right. Her dad is some tall, like Nigerian dude, like looked like a chief of a tribe or something like that. Right. I'm not about to get on his bad side at all. So I had to get her back at a reasonable hour. And it was tough because I lived 45 minutes away from her house. So here it is, 1 o'clock. We hanging out in the morning, which was rare, but sometimes 1 o'clock.
Sometimes the movie went late.
We watch a movie or something like that. And it's like, oh man, it would be so nice for her to spend the night. No, I had to get my butt up off the couch, drive her to Carrollton, 45 minutes, drive back. It was guys, but this is what character is all about. And this is all about setting up boundaries as well. So let's talk a bit about boundaries.
And I know my dad observed that about you. He observed that you brought me back at a good time. As you know, the transfer, when you're thinking about marriage, when you're single, you should be under a covering. And whatever that or whoever that covering is, when you get married, it's a transfer of that covering. And so my dad was probably looking at you saying, wow, this is a man that I would feel comfortable my daughter marrying because you are protecting and respecting the time that she needs to be home. And, quite frankly, it was the best thing for us, setting boundaries. But ladies, there's absolutely no reason for you to give wifey qualities to a boyfriend. So we didn't have any type of business him spending the night. We didn't need to be getting an apartment together and sharing bills, which are things you do in marriage. We didn't need to do all those things.
Just putting yourself in temptation.
Just putting yourself in temptation for something that you don't even know is going to work. And not only is it probably not going to work, but there's a statistic that says, I think 80% maybe 60% of couples who live together do not make it to the altar.
Right.
So why
and there's a higher
give
divorce rate as well?
Why give marriage wifey qualities to a boyfriend? So those boundaries were very, very helpful. And us being intentional about that, I think just really helped develop a solid friendship. Yeah.
And I was going to say, speaking of those boundaries, the reason why we were able to set boundaries that we agreed on is because of this next thing, which is the importance of being equally yoked. Man, I cannot tell you how many times people come to me and they ask me questions like, hey, should I continue dating this person? Like, they're a Mormon, but I'm a Christian, right? Or, this person is, an unbeliever, but they're a really, really good person. They come from a really good family, got a really, really good job, but I'm a Christian. Guys, listen, being unequally yoked is first and foremost a sin, because the Bible says we should not be equally yoked together with unbelievers. Second thing is going to cause you to have a struggle, right? In your marriage, you're going to want to send the kids to Christian school. They're going to be like, no. You're going to want to give a certain percentage of money to your church. They might be like, no, why would we do that?
Who are you going to pray to at dinner time?
I mean, there's so many things that's going to be, you're going to want to do that. So then that leads me to the third one. It's going to be, it's a sin. It's a struggle. It's also going to affect your sanctification, because most of the time when you get with somebody who you're not equally yoked with, they bring you down rather than you bringing them up. And let me just say this, when you are dating, it's so important to be equally yoked, because when you are very attracted to one another and the fire is there, and by the way, you need to have that fire. That's a whole nother lesson.
That's one point.
That's a whole nother point. Don't just marry somebody because they are cool and they're a good Christian person. No, you got to sleep with this person every night when you get married. So make sure you're attracted to the person. Huh?
Every night?
Every night. Every night. I mean, you got to get into bed with them. I'm just saying, you got to at least get into bed with them. But the point is, guys, it's so difficult when you're the only one in a relationship that has the value of sexual purity, because you're now saying, okay, I have to be the strong one all the time. But the moment that you have a weak moment, that other person, because they don't have the same conviction, they're going to slide on in and take advantage of you at your most vulnerable, weakest moments. But if the both of you are committed to sexual purity and you're equally yoked, when one person has a weak moment, you can count on the other person, but you know what? Oh, I want to, but you know what? Let's kind of put things on pause here. So,
and it's not a bad thing if they're attracted to you. I mean, if you're dating someone and you both have made a commitment to honor God with your relationship, then, and something happens and you slip up, like, they're not going to hell. Like, you want to have natural desires. You just want to set healthy boundaries so that you can still honor God with your relationship.
Yeah. And so the last thing that we'll talk about, guys, in this video, because like I said, we got 2 more coming, is friendship. Guys, listen, when I look back in our relationship, the best thing that could have ever happened was God arranging the events for her to go to DC and me to stay back here, because it forced us to talk on the phone and get to know each other and have intentional conversation, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the next video. But instead of us being up in the bed all the time, just kind of hanging out and watching Netflix and cuddled up on the couch for 6 hours every date, we were talking, getting to know each other, having fellowship and getting to know each other, establishing a friendship with one another. One night, tell them how long we talked one night.
Yes. So remember, I'm in DC. He is in Dallas. And we started our conversation, I want to say like at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And by the time, I'm surprised my phone didn't die. By the time we got off the phone, it was 3 o'clock.
7 hours.
In the morning. Yeah, 7 hours. Yeah. So when you're not sleeping with each other, you really get an opportunity to learn about each other, develop a solid friendship. Because the reality is, guys, I don't just love this man, but I like him. And marriage, you're not always going to feel madly in love with your spouse. That may be the majority of the time you don't feel like you're madly in love. But do you like the person? I like him. I like to hang out with him. We like each other so much. We also give each other space. I know what he likes. He likes to go out and play golf. I like to sometimes just, chill with my girls, play tennis. But we not only love each other, we like each other. And that friendship is so important to establish on the dating side, on the front end of marriage.
Awesome, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Went a little longer than we wanted to, but that's okay. So the next video, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how do you know if this person is the one, right? Because we're going to pick up our story from the engagement all the way up to when we got married. And we got some really, really important tips that we want to give you as it relates to that. So we will see you all in the next video in this 3-part series on Keeping up with the Parrs. Peace. See y'all later.